Hello guys and welcome back to a brand new video. I know this one's been long overdue. I've been off for a couple of months, but now I'm back, so let's dive right back into it, shall we? Imagine a world where the unthinkable happens. Primrose Everdeen, the gentle healer of District 12, is thrust into the brutal arena of the 74th Hunger Games, and her sister Katniss doesn't step forward to volunteer. How would this single decision ripple through the lives of those in Panem? Let's dive into this alternate reality and explore the profound consequences of such a pivotal moment. I first want to touch on Prim's journey in the arena. See, Prim is young, she's 12 years old, and everything about her is a symbol of innocence and purity. She's never been prepared for the violence of the arena. Her skills are rooted in care, in healing. She's a healer, not a fighter. So when she's thrown into the Hunger Games, it seems almost like a death sentence. A young, weak girl with no combat training, surrounded by trained killers. Prim doesn't even know how to wield a weapon. And to make matters worse, she's completely out of her element, and her chances of survival would appear to be slim to none. But in this what-if scenario, imagine if Prim didn't simply fade into the background. What if her inner kindness and compassion drew others to her? What if in this brutal world there were still sparks of humanity to be found? See, I'm just going on tantrum here, but the most obvious ally she could find would be Rue, the young tribute from District 11 who also shares that gentle nature. Rue through a small... But in this what-if scenario, imagine if Prim didn't simply fade into the background. What if her inner kindness and compassion drew others to her? See, I'm going out on a limb, but what if in this brutal world there were still sparks of humanity to be found? The most obvious ally she could find would be Rue, the young tribute from District 11, who also shares that gentle nature. Rue, though small, is quick, resourceful, and agile, traits that could complement Prim's skill in healing and medicine. Together they could form a bond built on mutual trust, navigating the arena's traps and dangers. Maybe Rue could teach Prim how to survive in the wild, how to use the environment for protection, while Prim could offer her medical skills to keep Rue and herself in good condition. Then there's Peeta. In the original timeline, Peeta's role in the games was always one of protection and strategy, particularly when it came to Katniss. Without Katniss, would Peeta's instincts still drive him to protect another tribute from District 12? It's likely, yeah. Peeta has a deep connection to Katniss and Prim. After all, having shared their district life, his kindness and natural charisma could still lead him to align with Prim and Rue in a bid to keep them safe and gain sponsorships. Imagine a trio formed out of necessity and compassion, their alliance based not on violence but on mutual survival. Of course, the games have a way of crushing the kindest hearts, and the reality of the arena is brutal. The career tributes are ruthless, skilled, and determined to win at all costs. Even with Peeta's strategy, Rue's agility, and Prim's healing, would they be able to outlast the careers? Their alliance might hold for a while, but the Capitol's game makers would ensure that the odds are always stacked against them. In this twisted arena where survival is a game, it's difficult to see how Prim could make it to the end. But even if she didn't, her presence could still spark moments of unexpected compassion and humanity, and perhaps even shift the perception of the games themselves, offering a glimmer of hope that could change the tide of the rebellion later on. Now, that would be significantly impactful on District 12. Back in the District 12, Katniss' reaction to Prim being chosen as tribute would be far more complicated in the original timeline. Now, back in District 12, Katniss' reaction to Prim being chosen as a tribute would be far more complicated. In the original timeline, Katniss volunteers immediately, feeling that it's her duty to save her younger sister. But in this reality, where Katniss does not volunteer, she would likely feel a combination of guilt, fear, and helplessness. She's already been through so much, and the thought of her younger sister being sent to the arena would likely break her. In a moment of extreme emotional turmoil, Katniss might be driven to act. She might not be able to sit idly by while Prim faces certain death. This situation could be the catalyst that propels her into the very heart of the rebellion. Instead of fighting in the arena, Katniss could shift her energy towards organizing the people of District 12, pushing them to rise up. The capital has already used the games to suppress and control the districts, but Katniss, fueled by her desperation, I'd say, to save her sister, might help initiate a new spirit of resistance, but outside of the game. Katniss and Gale's shared hatred of the capital would only intensify with the Katniss and Gale's shared hatred of the capital would only intensify with the stakes raised. Gale has always been outspoken about his anger toward the capital, but with Prim's life on the line, his revolutionary spirit would likely burn brighter. Perhaps without Katniss directly in the arena, Gale would take it upon himself to be a symbol of defiance in District 12. Together, Katniss and Gale might quietly start to sow the seeds of rebellion, speaking in hushed tones of defiance against the capital's cruelty. Without Katniss as the Mockingjay, though, District 12 might have a very different shape, one that's less organized, but perhaps just as willing to stand up as they did in the actual reality. On to Peeta now. Peeta's role in the games would also be drastically altered in this scenario. In the original timeline, Peeta's main objective was always Katniss, either to protect her or ensure her survival, dependent on the point in the games. Without Katniss in the picture, would Peeta still maintain his protectiveness, or would he instead form a different kind of alliance? Peeta might decide to team up with Prim, either out of affection for her sister or because the connection he already has to her. Peeta, being the charming and strategic individual that he is, would know how important sponsors are. His ability to charm the capital viewers might allow him, Rue, and Prim to receive more support, particularly if they play up their underdog status. Peeta's quick thinking and resourcefulness, combined with Rue's agility and Prim's medical knowledge, could allow them to avoid some of the more direct confrontations. But as the games drag on, the capital would begin to manipulate the situation to force their hand. Would Peeta sacrifice himself for Prim, knowing that she is still young and inexperienced in the arena? It's possible, but unlikely. Peeta is no stranger to sacrifice, and his protective instincts will likely see him step up. Peeta is no stranger to sacrifice, and his protective instincts would likely see him step up to save the others, even if it's meant his own death. The trio's alliance, as solid as it might be, could ultimately lead to some gut-wrenching moments. Would Prim be able to make it to the end? It's unlikely, given the sheer brutality of the games, but should she survive, Peeta's sacrifice might help cement her legacy, not just as a victor of the Hunger Games, but as a beacon of hope for people oppressed by the capital. And what about the main rebellion? If Prim perished in the arena, it would devastate not only Katniss, but the entire District 12 community. Katniss's grief and rage would fuel her desire to tear down the capital in a way we've never seen before. As the Mockingjay, she would likely use her newfound platform to speak out, to rally people, to start a revolution in Prim's name. The death of a child in such senseless, brutal game might be the final straw that unites the districts in an open defiance against their oppressors. However, if Prim somehow survived and won the games, the dynamic would be completely different. As the unexpected victor, Prim would become a symbol of resistance, someone who defied the capital and their expectations and proved that the oppressed could triumph. In this scenario, Prim's survival, would be a direct challenge to the capital's narrative that only the strong and ruthless could win the games. Instead, Prim would become a symbol of hope and resistance, pushing toward the cause of rebellion with her triumph. Either way, whether she lives or dies, Prim's story would forever alter the course of Panem's history. Her fate and the choices that lead to it could spark a chain of events that could ripple throughout the districts. Panem might not be on the brink of revolution sooner than anyone expected. In this alternate version of the Hunger Games, we see the far-reaching consequences of a single decision. By changing one pivotal moment, the moment Katniss doesn't volunteer to take Prim's place, everything follows. The games become a reflection of how fragile and unpredictable history can be, how one choice can set off a chain reaction that ultimately changes the fate of an entire nation. This what-if scenario is a reminder that no matter how small the decision may seem at this time, it can lead to something monumental. And in a world like Panem, where power is concentrated in the hands of the few and the lives of the many are expandable, even the smallest acts of defiance can create ripples that lead to revolution. So, what if Prim had been chosen and Katniss hadn't volunteered? Well, we would have seen a very different version of the Hunger Games, and it's one that would have changed Panem forever. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you agree with my take, if you think things would be completely different, if you think things would not change at all. I would love to hear your take on the comments. Until I see you on the next time, in my next video, take care.